Hello again. It's been a while. Sorry I've been getting a little carried away with the game and haven't really been posting any updates. Clown was just too fun.
Top corner? Oh,
Yeah.
oh, I'm dead. Oh my god, that's bad.
But an update on my roster can wait. In this video, I want to address some of the commonly asked questions from your comments, since there are a few things I can expand on in my previous Soulfist videos. So let's get to it. First off, I want to apologize for not making other engraving choices clear in my first Soulfist videos. The ones I posted before was the engravings I was using and am still using on my mains and alts. But I want to point out that depending on the fight and your team comp, other sets of engravings might edge out. A lot of you guys brought up Raid Captain, as well as the 4 lines plus 2 plus 1. In my opinion, all of those are good, and once you pick one of them, just stick to it. The best build in my eyes are the ones you can comfortably afford, so you can have some gold left over for either better gems or other characters that can make you gold. My mistake in my older video was that I didn't mention how much prices can change on stuff like class books or Fions, and what accessories are available on the market. Those can affect your decision on which build you will pick. So before building your Soulfist, I suggest using a planner like Loa To Do and the market interest list to plan out your purchases. On the bright side, know that EO Soulfist is a swiftness class, meaning besides flexing, the qualities on your accessories doesn't really matter as much as spec classes. Next up, runes and gems. For runes, there are some questions about conviction and judgment. I had the perfect excuse for not running them back then, which was I didn't have them. I do have them now, but I only really use them on my bard. At this point, I'm just too used to not using them. I heard that you need to proc it with Palm and Force Orb before going into rotation, but I can't really be bothered with tracking the internal cooldown. Speaking of cooldown, let's talk about the most controversial gem for Soulfist. Now if you look at Soulfist skills, the gem choices look pretty straightforward. 5 damage skills? Say less. 5 damage gems and 6 cooldowns, right? Well, you're right, but maybe not for Celestial Palm. And yes, that's what it's called now. For the build I'm running, you don't actually need one since you're lining it up between Energy Release and Pummel. So you can run something else like a CD gem on Flash Step or Bolting Clash instead. But if you are using Conviction Judgment, you might need it to keep the CD buff up. And even if you don't run a CD gem on Palm, you might still want to have one on hand if you're doing GVG as it's one of your higher damaging skills. Okay, now let's talk about sets. Someone asked about the Hallucination Set, and I personally have not used it a lot, except for when I was doing the Trial Guardian Achades recently. I switched to it after realizing 6 charges of Dominion Fang weren't enough for that fight, and I gotta say I kinda like it. It's a viable choice, especially if you run Keen Blunt Weapon. Now the question here really is about the new changes to Hallucination. To me, it's more of a quality of life improvement than a buff. And with how many multi-hits EO has, I don't think it really needs it, but it helps. Okay, so that should be it in terms of building a Soulfist, but let me know if I missed anything. Now let's talk about playing the class. First, the identity. Now there are a lot of talk about Hype 2 and Hype 3, like whether you should let Hype 2 expire or push to Hype 3. While I can't really explain how to go about it, if you just started playing Soulfist, I would suggest letting Hype 2 expire as you're getting in the hang of the class. But in my opinion, it's always worth it to push Hype 3 if the timing is right. And there are many factors you need to consider, like figuring out the pace of the fight based on how strong your team is, or what mechanics will come so you can rest in Hype 0. Some of the examples will be going into Mario for Clown, or the typing test for Vicus, or if you have a support in your group, you want to watch out for Serenade of Courage or Blessed Aura coming out when you're in Hype 2. That is when it's generally a good idea to pop off your Hype 3, so take some time and play around with it. It's a very important kit for EO Soulfist to get used to if you want to edge out other classes. It's also what keeps EO refreshing because different fights and team compositions will challenge how you plan out your hype. And next, let's talk about tapping or holding Crippling Barrier. If you want to keep things simple, just tap it and move on. So if you want my overcomplicated flowchart for holding, well, get ready. So the most important thing with Barrier is to land the release, because it pretty much does the same damage as the entire hold duration, depending on your tripod. So the first obvious time is to release it when the target is about to move out of the circle. Next, you want to hold it if all of your other skills are in cooldown. This is why you might see me use Barrier as the last skill of the damage cycle, sort of as a filler until energy release comes back. And that's pretty much it for the important situations, but if you want to get extra sweaty, you want to consider releasing it right before some of the powerful buffs are still active. Ones like Hype 3, ready attacks, support buffs, atrophies, etc. And if you don't know, you can try utilizing the supportive aspect of the skill and hold it down to reduce the enemy's attack power. This and the immunity can really soften a lot of hits for your team, especially if you struggle finding a support. And that's pretty much it. Again, just know that this is what I run and it might not be the best out there. But then again, if you're really chasing for the best build possible and you have unlimited gold, then just ignore everything I said and go cut a 9/7 stone. I hope this will clear some things up from my previous video, but if you still have any question, don't hesitate to comment and let me know. Thanks.